You ever feel that chill in the room when no one's talking, but everything is being said? That pressure in your chest? Like the air's waiting for something big to snap. Not fear, not hope, just finality. Like the curtain's about to drop and everyone's pretending the show isn't already over. See, some folks call it fate, others call it consequence. Me, I just call it the part of the game where the dice stop rolling and you realize the house never played fair in the first tick-tock. Tonight's not just another page in the story. No, tonight's the burn mark on the last chapter. Oh, the truth, it never really hides, does it? No, it dances. It twirls around you like smoke from a cigarette in a locked room. You think it's gone, but there it is, clinging to your clothes, seeping into your skin, whispering things you tried so hard to forget. See, people like to believe they've got time. They like their stories neat, tied up in shiny little bows. But truth doesn't wear ribbons. It wears blood. It wears scars. It wears your reflection when you're not looking. They thought they were clever, didn't they? Always ahead, always in control. Little puppeteers with trembling hands behind velvet curtains, pulling strings and calling it fate. Funny how fragile power feels when the lights flicker. They made plans, drafted endings, handed out roles, but forgot who was holding the camera. You can fake smiles for the crowd, but you can't lie to the lens. Not forever. You walk into rooms and people go quiet. Ever wonder why? It's not because they don't see you. It's because they know you've seen too much. They know that somewhere inside you, behind that steady voice and those tired eyes, is the moment everything cracked. The moment you stopped playing along. And that scares them more than anything. They're counting down clocks they can't reset. Every secret they whispered in the dark now echoes like a scream in an empty hallway. The walls remember, the floorboards groan under the weight of things they buried. But it's all coming up now, isn't it? Like bile, like justice. Uninvited, unrelenting, and completely uninterested in who's ready or not. They said you were dramatic, said you were crazy, said you imagined it all. But it's always easier to call someone mad than to admit you've sinned, isn't it? Let the world spin the tale of the unstable one, the liar, the overthinker. Because as long as you're the problem, they stay clean. But stains don't vanish, they just wait for the rain. And when it pours, oh, it pours hard. The kind of storm that doesn't knock, it breaks in, soaks everything, exposes what was rotting beneath the wallpaper, smiles and borrowed prayers. You ever notice how quiet people get when they're guilty, how they suddenly find God when they're found out? But this time, no one's handing them a script, no one's saving face. It's not redemption they get. It's revelation, raw, ruthless, unedited. Truth walks in without an invitation. It doesn't knock, it doesn't ask if it's convenient. It arrives covered in dust and blood, dragging every name, every deed, every lie behind it, and you don't even flinch, because deep down you knew this was coming. You didn't ask for revenge, you asked for truth. And truth, well, it doesn't play nice. There's a certain kind of silence before a fall. Not peace, not calm, just a hush. Like the air itself is holding its breath. That's where we are now. That's what tonight is, not an ending, a reckoning, a mirror held too close, a voice too loud to mute, and every face that smirked while you suffered is about to see what it looks like when masks melt and shadows confess. Not because you fought for it, but because truth never stays buried. It claws, it drips, it rises. They always said you should forgive, turn the other cheek, be the bigger person, smile through betrayal, swallow your rage like it's medicine, act like your insides aren't on fire. But no one ever tells you what to do with the ashes. They don't mention how heavy silence becomes when you've been wronged, and the world just keeps spinning like nothing happened. See, they want you calm. They want you polite. They want you manageable. Because if you ever really let that scream out, if you ever let your eyes show what you saw, if you ever spoke the full truth out loud, they'd shake. It's a game, really. A dirty, rigged, blood-soaked game. And the rules? Made by the ones who cheat best. You weren't invited to win. You were there to serve, to be the background character in someone else's spotlight, the pawn in a smiling king's court. You try to play fair, play clean, play human, and they mistake your kindness for weakness. They think silence means submission. But even ghosts have teeth. They take from you, piece by piece, and call it fate. They chip away at your mind, poison your name in whispers, twist your memories until you don't even trust your own reflection. It's not enough for them to win. They need you to feel like you were never even in the race, because that's control, isn't it? Not just beating someone, but convincing them they never stood a chance. And when you catch on, when you finally see the strings above your head, the trap beneath your feet, what do? They call you crazy. Of course they do. Sanity is a weapon in the hands of the silent, and they hate that you still have it. They'll tell everyone you're the villain in your own story, the monster behind the curtain, because if you're the problem, they don't have to be guilty. If you're unstable, they don't have to answer. But truth has a way of leaking, like ink through cheap paper, like blood through bandages. They can't plug all the holes forever, and one by one, people start to notice. Eyes shift, whispers change. Suddenly that story doesn't sound so stable. That smile looks strained. And the one they tried to bury, still breathing, still standing, still watching. It terrifies them. The ones who did the most damage always fear your voice the most. They built castles out of your silence, thrones on your broken back. And now you're speaking, not to beg, not to plead, but to tell the truth. And it burns. Oh, it burns everything they thought was safe. See, this isn't about revenge. It's about revelation, letting light hit the things they swore would never see daylight. And it's funny how fast people change their tune when the light turns on. Suddenly, everyone's holy. Everyone's misunderstood. Everyone's sorry, but not because they regret it. Only because they got caught. They will deny, they will twist, they will cry about the cruelty of being exposed. But you don't owe them softness. You don't owe them silence, not after what they took, not after how they smiled while you bled. You're not here to be palatable. You're not here to make them feel better about their crimes. You're here to tell it, all of it, loud, raw, ugly, and real. They tried to erase you, but they forgot one thing. Survivors remember, in detail, in color, with names. And the more they try to drown you, the louder you echo. That's what they hate the most. That no matter how much they strip away from you, your truth still walks in like a storm. You didn't come back for their approval. You didn't rise from the dirt to be graceful. You're not a symbol, you're a witness. And when you speak, the ground they built their lies on starts to crack, because truth is the one thing they can't unsee, can't undo, can't outlive. And it's finally your turn to speak it, loud enough to shake the foundation, clear enough to leave a mark, sharp enough to remind them who they tried to bury. They thought you'd break, didn't they? Thought you'd fold like cheap paper, thought you'd beg, plead, vanish quietly into the background like a good little puppet. Because that's what they do. They test you, push and prod to see where the cracks are. They smile while they stab, offer you poison in a silver cup, and act shocked when you choke. And the moment you stop dancing to their tune, that's when they panic. That's when the mask slips. Because you were never supposed to wake up. You were never supposed to see the wires. You were supposed to keep pretending the circus was real. But something inside you snapped. Not the kind of snap they wanted, not the collapse, not the crumble, no. The other kind. The fire kind. The kind that comes after too many betrayals and too much silence. The kind that makes you look in the mirror and stop asking, why me, and start whispering, try me. And just like that, their control, gone. The game changed. Because now you've seen it, and once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. Can't pretend you don't know the rules are rigged. Can't keep smiling like the dagger in your back is just part of the decor. And they don't like that, oh no. They liked you better when you were agreeable, when your voice was soft, your head bowed, your spirit chained. But you started asking questions. You started saying no, and that's the real sin in their book. Not violence, not manipulation, but resistance. It shakes them, because you're not supposed to resist. You're supposed to comply. You're supposed to accept your role and stay in line and never, ever turn around and stare your enemy in the eye. But you did. You're doing it right now, and that terrifies them. You see, people like them, they're addicted to power. Not strength, not courage, power. The kind that only works when someone else believes they have none. The kind that feeds on fear, on shame, on silence. But you stopped feeding it. You walked away from the script, burned the costume, tore up the stage. And now they don't know what to do with you, because you're unpredictable. You're unafraid. And worst of all, you're aware. Awareness is dangerous. It turns victims into warriors, witnesses into weapons. Once you understand what they're doing, really understand it, every word, every gesture, every manipulation becomes clear. You start seeing the patterns, the repetition, the way they twist the truth, frame the innocent, smear the brave. You start noticing how often they play the victim when they're the one holding the knife. You catch the lies before they land. You predict the guilt trips, the gaslighting, the crocodile tears. And they hate that because they thought they were clever, thought they had you wrapped around their fingers like string. But you're not a puppet. You never were. You just didn't know how strong you were until they tried to bury you. That strength scares them, not because it's loud or flashy, but because it's steady, quiet, unshakable. It's in the way you don't flinch anymore, the way you smile without fear, the way you see through the smoke and mirrors and still choose to stand tall. They'll try to drag you back into the fog, into the mess, into the madness, but you're done with that. You've tasted clarity, and it tastes like fire. And they'll call you names for it. Oh, they will. Too cold, too distant, too intense. You'll be painted as the villain, the ungrateful one, the heartless one. But you've learned their language now. You know that too much just means too aware. Too loud means too real. Too distant means not under their control. Every insult is just a reflection of their frustration. Because you're not breaking. You're not begging. You're building. They don't understand how someone they tried so hard to destroy can still be breathing, still laughing, still creating, still standing. But that's the thing. They don't understand resilience. They only understand control. And when they lose that, they lose their minds. So they lash out with words, with silence, with whatever scraps of power they think they still have. But it's not working anymore, because you're not the same. You're not scared. You're not small. You're not theirs. They watched you like a hawk, didn't they? But not out of admiration. No, no, no. It wasn't love. It wasn't care. It was surveillance, monitoring, studying your every twitch and breath and blink, because they needed to know the moment you started slipping through their fingers, you were their little experiment, their controlled subject in a cage of invisible bars. They poked you with guilt, fed you lies for breakfast, trained you with a reward-punishment system like some sick game, and for a while you played along. Didn't you? You smiled when they needed you to. You bowed when it kept the peace. You swallowed your tongue because screaming would only prove them right. Right? But see, here's the twist. You weren't weak. You were calculating, you were surviving, and that's what they'll never understand. They thought your silence was submission. They mistook your patience for ignorance. But you were waiting, watching, learning. Every trick, every trap, every twisted little move they played. You recorded it, not with cameras or notebooks, but with the kind of memory pain carves deep into bone. And now you know. Now you've seen it all. And you've started to smile again, but it's a different kind of smile. One with teeth. Oh, they hate that. They hate how you stopped explaining yourself, stopped apologizing, stopped playing small so they could feel tall. 'Cause their entire world was built on your compliance, their throne made of your back. And when you stood up, everything started to shake. The castle cracked, the mask melted. And suddenly the monster wasn't hiding anymore, it was screaming, desperate. Because when you stop reacting, you take away their favorite toy. They need reactions. That's the currency. If they can't make you cry, they lose value. If they can't confuse you, they lose control. If they can't guilt trip you into crawling back, they lose purpose. And when someone like that loses purpose, oh, do they spiral. They start grasping for dirt, fabricating tales, gathering a little audience to whisper their versions of the story to, painting you as the villain in the mess they made, because admitting they were the problem, that would require reflection, responsibility. And that's a language they never bothered to learn. So they rewrite it In their version, you were unstable, you were too sensitive, too distant, too cold. You see the pattern? Every time you protected your peace, they called it an attack. Every time you chose silence over chaos, they claimed it was punishment. Every boundary was branded betrayal, because they only respected walls when they were the ones building the prison. Yours? Oh, yours were threats, alarms, reminders that you were no longer theirs to manipulate. And that's when the game really begins. When they can't control the present, they reach for the past, twist memories, rewrite moments, try to convince you that what you felt wasn't real, that the gaslighting wasn't abuse, that the yelling was passion, that the abandonment was your fault. They'll bring up everything you've ever done wrong, never once mentioning their own sins, like standing in a burning building and blaming the person who ran out first for not putting out the fire. But you're not going back in. You've seen the smoke, smelled the poison, felt the heat, and this time, you've got matches of your own. You don't want revenge. No, that would be too easy, too obvious. What you want is peace, the kind that rattles them, the kind that looks like indifference. Not the war, but the fact that you no longer see them as worthy of your rage. And while they throw stones from the shadows, hoping to provoke the version of you they could control, they'll realize something horrifying. You're not even angry anymore. You're done, detached, free. Because the opposite of love isn't hate, it's apathy. And when you stop caring, when their name becomes just another echo in a room you left behind, that's when their entire illusion crumbles. Because without your reaction, their power doesn't just weaken, it evaporates. They'll keep trying, of course. Little messages, cryptic posts, fake concern disguised as checking in, but it's not about you. It never was. It's about regaining access to your mind, your energy, your attention, because they fed off you, and now you're gone. A closed door, a healed scar, a survivor who no longer bleeds when the past knocks at the door. They laughed when you cried, didn't they? Not the loud kind of laugh, not always. Sometimes it was quiet, polite, the kind that hides behind concern and sympathy and fake smiles. But it was laughter, because your pain made them feel important, made them feel big. And when someone gets off on your suffering, they don't want it to end. So they become architects of chaos, designing situations that keep you guessing, doubting, slipping on your own sanity like it's a banana peel on a stage they built just for you. But they act like they care. Oh, they do that part so well. Crocodile tears and heavy sighs. I'm just worried about you, they say, while pulling the rug from under your feet one more time. The ones who pretend to care are the ones you should run from first. Because real concern doesn't come with conditions. It doesn't demand your obedience. It doesn't vanish when you start saying no. But these people, they keep score. They hand out their kindness like loans, expecting repayment in the form of submission. The moment you speak up, the mask slips. Suddenly, you're too much, too emotional, too angry. But you weren't angry, were you? Not at first. You were confused. You were hurt. You were human, and they didn't like that. Because they can't manipulate what they can't predict. So they rewrite the script, make you out to be the villain in a play they wrote, directed, and starred in. And the worst part? You start believing them. You replay every word, every fight, every moment you doubted yourself, because they planted seeds in your mind, watered them with guilt, and waited patiently for you to harvest self-blame. It's a beautiful trick, really. Make you feel like you're the problem, then step back and watch you destroy yourself. They don't need to lift a finger, you do it for them. You become your own prison guard, your own judge, your own executioner, all while they sit back and act surprised that you're falling apart. But then something shifts. Maybe it's a whisper, maybe it's a scream, maybe it's just a quiet moment when you look in the mirror and don't recognize the person staring back. You see the cracks, not the ones they created, but the ones you let them fill with their poison. And you decide, maybe for the first time, to take the poison out, to bleed, to shake, to shatter everything you thought was true, and start again. That's the part they hate most. The part where you realize you were never broken, just manipulated into thinking you were. See, power doesn't always look like screaming. Sometimes it looks like walking away. Sometimes it looks like blocking the number. Sometimes it looks like laughing for real this time. Because healing is rebellion. It's the ultimate middle finger to people who wanted you miserable. It's waking up and choosing peace over drama, silence over shouting, boundaries over begging. It's realizing you don't owe anyone your destruction just to make them feel whole. You can leave, you can rise, and you don't have to explain yourself to anyone. They'll come back, of course, with apologies dipped in sugar, with rewritten stories where they were the victim all along. Let's talk, they'll say. Let's fix this, but what they really mean is let's get you back where I had you. Don't fall for it. The apology isn't real. It's bait. A test to see if they still have the key to the cage you finally crawled out of. And if you walk back in, they won't even have to lock the door. You'll do it for them. Again, that's the loop. That's the trick. They don't want you healed, they want you hooked, addicted to their approval, dependent on their validation, because a version of you that doesn't need them terrifies them. A version of you that thrives without their chaos destroys their illusion. So they'll try to lure you back with memories, with guilt, with words like family, loyalty, love. But love doesn't require sacrifice of your soul. Love doesn't demand that you shrink. And you've done shrinking. You've done bending. You've done pretending everything's fine just to keep the peace while they waged war inside your mind. You've learned the hard way that not everyone who smiles is a friend, that some people love to see you suffer just so they can play savior when it suits them. But you're not playing anymore. You're not auditioning for a role in their circus. You're writing your own script. One they can't understand because it doesn't revolve around them anymore. The truth is, they never wanted you to heal because a healed version of you doesn't need their approval, doesn't respond to their games, doesn't crumble under their silence, doesn't fall for the same sad song on repeat. The healed version of you watches them with the same eyes they used to watch you, cold, clear, unmoved. And that, more than anything, is what they fear.